Soul Garden.
Hello, my fellow Soul Gardeners, and welcome now to Astro 103, Episode 9. We are talking about planets in transit in this 103 series, and today I'm going to talk about Mars. Mars, the planet of aggression, masculinity, basically the home planet of the Eri, known as Aries. That's my plural version of Aries, Eri. Now, Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun. It has a rotation around the Sun of 687 days, and that is roughly 2 years, basically. Mars is a very interesting planet, actually. You know, Mars is one of those planets that, in transit, you really feel Mars. At least I do. Maybe that's because I'm a man. But you really feel Mars. You really do. It's an aggressive vibration. It certainly is, in my horoscopes, the source of irritation. It's the source of conflict. It's the source of injury. It's basically the source of anything going too far in an action-oriented way. And Mars is super important because I always say in the horoscopes, you know, you draw in through law of attraction, but once God gives you all these choices, you got to step on them. You got to act on them. You need Mars. Mars is part of what we do on the planet. We act, we move towards, we put it into motion, we put it into physical reality. So Mars, wherever it is in your chart, is basically showing us that. Where are you taking action? And wherever Mars is, my clients tend to feel amped up. Now, by feeling amped up, it's just kind of like having a lot of coffee, okay? You drink 20 cups of coffee, that's a Mars transit, right? And what happens when you drink 20 cups of coffee? You have very little patience. You are a little jittery. You're not necessarily thinking so much like you should think. You just want to act. You are impulsive, all right? And you are prone to injury. You know, you're prone to going too far. There has to be a mastery over that Martian energy. And it kind of depends on where Mars is in the natal chart. If a person has Mars, let's say in the 12th in the natal chart, okay, and Mars, let's say, is now in the 6th house, so Mars is opposing Mars in your natal, well, with Mars in your 12th, you're not a person that really handles Martian energy well anyways. You've got stifled, cooped up Martian energy in your subconscious. You've got an angry subconscious. You've got a held back Mars. So when Mars moves into the 6th and pulls on Mars, well, these people are accident prone because it's the 6th house, the human body and physical reality. These people are accident prone. You'll hear me joke in the horoscopes, do not operate heavy machinery during these transits. I'm usually looking at Mars during that, or it's a Mars-ruled day. So Mars is an aggressive planet. So let's say, you know, it's kind of obvious. I mean, it's really kind of A plus B equals C with Mars because it is just so Neanderthal, frankly. Mars in the 3rd house, hyperactive mind. Won't shut up. Maybe these are people who are, when you have Mars in the 3rd, you're going to be shooting your mouth off. You're not necessarily going to be thinking twice. You're going to be very impulsive with your thought. Mars in the 4th, people moving, literally their house. Conflict in the home, okay? Conflict in the home due to the fact that there was already tension there anyways, and Mars has shown up and released the tension, all right? Mars is going to show up and make activity, get things moving, all right? So Mars in the 5th house, okay, time to go after your personal dreams, time to go after your heart. Also means, because the 5th house is our inner child, 5th house would be, temper tantrums every time the inner child doesn't get what it wants. Okay, so you can get the trigger of temper tantrums, that inner child acting out, right? Acting, Mars acting, right? Mars in the 6th we covered, good time to get some cardio in with Mars in the 6th, good time to change your daily lifestyle. Be careful about going too far, though, pushing the body to too many limits with Mars in the 6th house, etc. Mars in the 7th, very aggressively thinking or moving for relationships. Relationships moving very fast. That's one other thing with Mars. Things tend to speed up, okay? When Mars is in your own sign, these are periods of time where it's like, holy moly, you get a lot done, you feel amped up. And one of the interesting things I found about Mars when it comes out of your sign is you suddenly feel deflated. Okay, you feel deflated. You feel the loss of Mars. I remember when Mars left Taurus. I remember when Mars left Leo, my rising sign. There's about 3 to 5 days where I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? I have no energy. I'm so tired. And I realized, oh, goddess, Mars has left, you know, a key component of my chart, and I'm missing that energy. I got used to being on coffee or whatever. I got used to it. I also find that I don't need coffee, actually, when Mars is in particular places. Now, Mars can, of course, get something moving. When Mars crosses a given planet, it can go too far. For instance, Jim Morrison, all right, died of an overdose when Mars conjuncted his Jupiter in the 8th house. Okay, so Mars was transiting his 8th house. I've looked at the charts of people when they die. I find it kind of fascinating. It was one of my astrology teachers that I took school with. And we all looked at it. I was like, holy moly, look at this. So Mars, the pushing of Jupiter, abundance, 8th house, death, and crossing boundaries. Jim Morrison had been doing tons of drugs for years, but Mars hit that Jupiter conjunct that one day. Another interesting Mars transit story, JFK. Okay, JFK dies with a Martian transit in his 8th house. But Mars was hitting, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had Saturn in the 8th. So Mars hit Saturn, and so Mars was violence, death, Saturn, responsibility, karma, when Mars hit that Saturn. So Mars will push a person over the edge, especially if they've been already building up a lot of tension in that part of your chart. And so you have to be conscious of where it's hitting you. And it doesn't always mean that it's going to be bad, you know, but it can be. You have to be careful. Really, it comes down to how much in denial are you? How much have you let the energy already build up? If Mars is coming to a wet pile of leaves, nothing is going to burn. But if you have not spent any time and let that pile of leaves dry out and you have not paid attention to that issue, Mars hits it, goes up in flames. Now Mars retrograde, which it happens, Mars retrograde is hard to calculate, but when it does happen, boy, oh boy, do we feel deflated. I remember last year Mars was retrograde in Leo for like 5 months. That was the first time Mars had been retrograde in Leo that long since like the 50s, if I remember correctly. I can't remember all my dates. I got a lot of stuff up here, folks. Leo is my rising sign and my moon. I did not want to do anything. It took so much energy with Mars retrograde. And what Mars was trying to do was change me internally, not change me externally. So I could sit on the couch and contemplate all the changes that I wanted to make when I got the energy to do it. I didn't have the energy. So Mars retrograde is, okay, we got to work on us on the inside. We got to work on us inside. But you can't actually do it till Mars goes direct again, or you don't feel like you have the energy to do it till Mars goes direct again. So Mars is very interesting. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in later episodes, but you know, Mars is almost every 2 years. Venus is less than a year. So Mars will catch up to Venus and go behind Venus, and catch up and go behind. So Mars will impregnate Venus when it comes next to Venus. So when Mars and Venus are together, like they are in Scorpio at this particular moment of tape date, then things are getting pregnant. You got masculine aggressive Mars, you got the receptive energy and creativity of Venus, and you've got pregnancy happening there, as long as the sun is in a place in the chart that is saying yes to it. Okay, that's all I have for the Martian planet. Thank you for logging in. I'll see you next time with Astro 103. Live, love, be.